team? As always, hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm Nick and I'm always on the lookout for new tech items that are beautifully designed. And I recently stumbled upon a new keyboard from Keychron, and it is the Keychron K2 HE. I've actually had it for a few months now, and this keyboard doesn't just look good, it also has magnetic switches which offer a lot of cool features. For example, they are pressure sensitive, you can adjust the actuation on them, they also have a unique typing feel. And this new keyboard comes in at $140, which for a well-designed mechanical keyboard can make sense. However, it's also not going to be in the impulse purchase category for most people. So today, after using it for a few months now, I wanted to share my thoughts on it and also tell you if you should get one or not. Now let's get started with what you get in the box. Of course, you get the keyboard itself. You also get a nice braided cable. You get a keycap puller as well as a few extra keycaps so that you can replace, for example, the little accents that they put in there for the regular colors. And you also get Windows and Mac keycaps, which is really helpful if, like me, you're using two different systems. And lastly, this is an add-on, but I also got the wrist rest, which I'll come back in a second. I think it's pretty important. And for the keyboard, you get a few different options. You got the standard version that's black and blue and made more out of plastic, and then you get the special edition, which is the more premium option. And for the special edition, you get two colors. You get either white or black, and keeping of course the wood and brown accents. And I personally went with the black and walnut option as it fits my setup the best. As soon as you take it out of the box, you can already tell that this is a pretty well-made keyboard. It's very sturdy, it doesn't bend or anything, and you can tell that they thought about every details. Now in terms of colors, I personally really like the black and brown color combo. I know it won't be for everyone, but it personally fits my setup really well. The only caveat here is that the wooden panels on the side don't match the exact walnut that I have on my desk, which makes it a bit annoying sometimes. However, when it's on a desk mat, you don't really notice the difference, and of course, this is not their fault at all. And on the keycaps themselves, I haven't decided yet if I like the all black or black and brown look, so I've left it with the brown for now, but honestly, I don't know if I'm going to change it or not. And when it comes to the keycaps for Windows or Macs, I did switch a bit in the beginning because it so happened that as soon as I got this one, I also got a new job that gave me a Windows computer, so I was managing Windows and Mac. In the beginning, I was a bit confused, especially using Figma, where I had to relearn some of the shortcuts for Windows. So it was a bit helpful. However, now I never use the Windows keycaps, I just leave the Macs on. But on the side of the keyboard itself, you will see a switch for Windows and Mac. That one I do use every time, and I appreciate that it's on the side, which makes it a lot more accessible. On there, you also get your controls for Bluetooth, and you also get the port for the cable to charge your keyboard. And I appreciate that it's on this side like that, because with the 90-degree cable, if it was on the back, you would get a long cable on your desk and it wouldn't look really good. So by putting it on the side there, it keeps everything a lot more clean on your desk. And now if we go a bit more into the details, you get a 75% layout, which has been my personal favorite as of lately. It's pretty compact, but you also get a bit more options than on smaller versions. And the battery will last you about 2 months if you don't use the LEDs, sorry. And if you use them, it won't last as long, of course, but I haven't found that to be a problem personally. The keycaps themselves are made with double shot PBT, and they have a pretty nice texture on them. There's nothing really unique, but it does feel good when you're using them. I will note, however, that the keycaps do feel a bit more looser than on some higher end keyboards, but this is really nitpicking. It doesn't impair the typing experience at all. And lastly, you have 3 options for the angle that you want. You can leave it flat, and then you have 2 extra options depending on the angle you like to type on. And I will note that this is a really thick keyboard, and so for that reason, I think you really do need to get a wrist rest. And the one that they sell for this keyboard is the perfect fit, as you would expect. And it is made fully out of silicone, so it's really comfortable. And when you use it throughout the day, it stays really comfortable for the whole day. It doesn't get warm or anything. And the only issue I've had with it is that the silicone material will attract dust like crazy. So with 2 cats here, whenever they come into my office, well, I have to clean up this thing. But I still think it's really worth it. It really makes the whole keyboard a lot more comfortable, especially for the long days. You don't want to have your wrist bent, it wouldn't be comfortable. Now, when you match this high quality build with their unique keycaps, you get a really good sounding and feeling keyboard. These switches are the Keychron double rail magnetic nebula switches, which is quite a mouthful. And on their website, they do say that this keyboard is exclusively compatible with these specific switches. It doesn't even support other magnetic switches. But if you're like me and you intend to use the keyboard just as they designed it and as they engineered it, it won't be an issue, of course. And when I was doing more research on these switches, since I had never used magnetic switches, and these tend to be used a lot in industrial work, since they're frictionless, this makes them last a lot longer because they're more resistant to things like dust and moisture as well. And for us, this just means that we get a longer lasting keyboard, but they also get other nice benefits. For example, using magnetic switches, you can track the pressure that you've put on the key itself, and you can also decide where you want to register the click. So if you want to play, for example, games and you want to play very rapidly, you might want to set this actuation point really high, so that way you don't really have to go all the way down on the switch. And I was expecting magnetic switches to come with a very unique typing feel. I do think they're a bit different with the regular spring ones, but I'm not sure that if I didn't know what it was, I would have told you this feels different, if that makes sense. It's not it doesn't feel that different, but I do think it feels a bit more bouncy in a way, kind of like two magnets you would just put on opposite ends. The thing that I was the most excited about was this pressure sensitive feature. I thought that in games it would have been really useful, since it kind of mimics on a game controller where the trigger you can press more or less on it. If you've played any racing games with the controller, you'll know what I'm talking about. I thought you could have done the same thing with this keyboard, since you can track this, how much pressure you're putting on the keys, but I haven't found any games that do support that as of now. I think maybe as more and more of these keyboards come out, we'll start to see more and more games that support it. But for now, I was pretty sad to see that I haven't found any games that do. Now, while you can't swap the keys to customize your keyboard, you do get the Keychron Launcher, which allows you to customize a lot of things on it. For example, you can change, of course, all of the lighting setup, but you can also set macros and things like that. And I was really happily surprised when I launched this app, since this tends to be something that you just kind of set up once and then don't really play with anymore unless you like to tinker with your keyboard settings. I found that a lot of keyboard companies will kind of overlook their app and it won't be super user-friendly or really beautiful. And since I work as a UI UX designer, of course, this kind of makes me sad whenever I see it. And since it's also usually in the first few days of receiving a keyboard that I personally play with it, it still feels to me like it's part of these first impressions. So I'm always sad to see when they don't put the same effort into their apps that they do into their keyboards. And Keychron didn't do that. Their app is really well designed. The user experience is really good. Everything is easy to find, and the UI itself too looks great. So huge props to them for that. It personally makes me pretty happy. Now, on this app, you can do a lot of things. Like I said, switch the colors, all of this, but you can also do custom remaps, set custom macros, and even save different profiles. In the past, I've personally used different profiles for things like my work as a UI UX designer to access my different shortcuts a bit quicker. Have another one for editing, once again, just with the goal of having shortcuts that I can access faster. And lastly, you could also do one for gaming. I haven't personally ever used this, but it's something that you could do. And there's no real limit if you think of your user imagination. You could really find a lot of different options. And now for the big question of should you be buying one? Well, I think that at $140, it places it at this interesting spot where it's not exactly in the high-end price range, but it's a bit higher than your average mid-range. So it's kind of this higher end of the mid-range keyboards. And while the price sits there, it does feel like a premium keyboard. You can tell that they really thought about the details for this one. It looks beautiful, and so if you're someone that cares about design and functionality, I think that this one strikes a nice balance. And personally, I think it's a really well done product. They've delivered on all their promises, and so if you're in the market for a mechanical keyboard, this one is definitely worth checking out. But do make sure that you get the wrist rest for it, because it's gonna make it a lot more comfortable. And now, if you haven't seen my last video where I showcased this keyboard, it was a full review of my home office, so go check that one out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.